Hi everyone, welcome to the extraordinary world of the vector equilibrium. I'm your host, Nadi, and we're going to be drawing this incredibly profound shape that you just learned about. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the whole info session with the flower of life and the vector equilibrium, but once again, I just want to give you an example of how powerful the geometry can be. I had a woman join us for the community college sacred geometry drawing class that I've been doing for many years. And she introduced herself as taking the class because someone told her she could talk to her deceased husband through the geometry. And I, of course, knew that we were off to a good start. And we were drawing through the series, and we got to the vector equilibrium. And she went home that night and was able to connect with him, heal the relationship, bridge dimensional realities. It was extraordinary. She came back in, told us about it the next day, and went on to feel so transformed by the shape. She not only had it tattooed on her left arm so she could have the connection with him close to her heart, she also radically transformed her world, headed out, started studying plant medicines in South America. It was extraordinary. So I like to share stories of how the geometry can radically transform your reality. I try to offer the disclaimers, and you can't explain it. Sometimes it'll just happen to you, and all of a sudden you're compelled to keep drawing. This is my story. I wanted to surround myself with it all the time because I was feeling good. It was the harmonics that it was promoting. It was the alignment that it was promoting. So I got a little obsessed, and here I am a decade later, hoping that you get obsessed about it too. So I'm going to put the PowerPoint on so we can draw, and I invite you to stay open to the possibilities of what it could do for you. Who knows what it could lead to? Great. So as always, I recommend working with an 11 by 14 pad of paper, but if you have an 8.5 by 11, that's awesome. We just want to scale down the measurements a little bit. So on the larger paper, you can start with a 2-inch width radius. So opening your compass 2 inches wide, which will give us a 4-inch wide circle and a lovely size for our vector equilibrium. You can approximate the center of the page, and I would recommend, as usual, drawing the circles lightly because you can leave them, but you can also erase them to get the vector. Once you have your seed of life, I do encourage you to pause, see if you have any feeling or resonance with it, and take a moment to remember the significance of the geometry and that this isn't just a two-dimensional shape. This is not only a third-dimensional shape, but it's also a multidimensional shape, meaning it's accessing our multidimensional intelligence. Whoa, what the heck is she talking about? Stick around, take a couple more classes, and I'll explain myself. So next we're going to use these contact points, right? These intersections to create a plane on the left diagonal, which is going to look like this. Oh, choose 4 different colors to use for this shape. So using the first color, we're going to create this shape which doesn't have any dimensionality until we add the other 3. So again, using the seed of life for the coordinates of the vector equilibrium, which is one of the most extraordinary shapes in the universe, as I discussed in the info module. Hope you got to check that out. Although if you just want to draw a quick vector equilibrium, I can't blame you there. So now we're going to switch the axis. We're going to go on the other diagonal and using the same intersection points, choosing the next color as well. It's going to look like this cool pattern. It also looks pretty cool if you use the same color for the shape, but I like to use the different colors because it really highlights the different planes in the shape. But this is one of those fun exercises in perspective where you will shift from one plane to the next in the shape and see different vectors and energy movement. So then we're going to make the third plane, which will be on the horizontal, using these intersection points of the shape. And using the third color, you're going to get that horizontal plane. And for me, this is the first time I start to see the different planes. All right, fourth color, I'm going to outline from point to point the external connection. You remember in the information module, this is also called the cube octahedron, because you can start to see the cube, you can start to see the triangles that make up the octahedron, but it takes a little time to play with the perspective. So once you've got the external hexagon, now we're going to connect the internal lines. Okay, so what that basically means, keeping the same color, is bisecting the shape 3 times centrally. The vector equilibrium is where physics and metaphysics meet. And precisely, they meet in this central point of singularity that we are drawing in now. This is a still point of frequency where infinite sources of energy are possible. That's a really big deal for a lot of reasons that I hopefully talked about in the info session. So the last step then is to draw in these 6 internal lines connecting the internal star tetrahedron, right? If you remember from the first class, there's a tiny star tetrahedron in here. I also, in a very sneaky way, erased the underlying seed at some point. So this is just the shape so that you could see it without the seed. And that will complete the VE. Super easy, super fun, right? So I want to encourage you to actually meditate on that shape that you just drew. Like, sit with it, allow your eyes and perspective to shift and see different patterns, because what you're doing is you're repatterning your neural pathways. You're actually creating more harmonics. You're aligning the hemispheres of your brain. It's all so sneaky. It's all so subversive and transformational. You think you're just drawing some shapes, and the next thing you know, you're insatiably compelled to keep drawing it because it's activating new levels of consciousness within you, which leads to a new and exciting reality. It can bust open the old one that you were really used to, so just a note of caution, but it's worth it if you start to notice that. I highly recommend hanging in there with the process. And I'm here to help. There's more modules. So I hope you'll join me again for the next activating installments of Sacred Geometry. Take care.